you're still tuned in to News and Views on myself, Salailo Makudir. The time is 13 minutes past 9, and we're going to be heading over to Tel Aviv now, where tensions are boiling over in Israel. Hundreds of thousands have taken to the streets of Tel Aviv and across the country, demanding two things: an end to the war on Gaza and the immediate release of captives still held there. Israeli police responded with water cannons, mass arrests, and road closures. But the protests have only grown louder and becoming some of the largest since this genocide began nearly 2 years ago. The movement has united families of some of the captives, some of the bereaved families, students, unions, and even celebrities came out, and also opposition leaders, restaurants, businesses, universities, and theaters shut down in solidarity, and protesters are chanting, "We don't win a war over the bodies of hostages." Well, this point is not a war, it's genocide. But as the Israeli government pushes ahead with this offensive in Gaza City, anger is also mounting over the fate of starving Palestinians who are trapped under the constant bombardment. And this is all happening under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu. But today we ask the question, are these protests maybe, just maybe, a turning point for Israeli society and for the genocide in Gaza? And we'll be unpacking that with the Haaretz journalist and columnist, Gideon Levy is one of Israel's most outspoken critics of this genocide, and is joining us live from Tel Aviv. Gideon, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you for having me again.
Pleasure's all ours. I think we can kickstart the conversation with, something that you've always warned of, the fact that Israel's war on Gaza is unsustainable, and we are seeing it play out in the streets of Tel Aviv. I mean, almost 500,000 people coming out to the streets. What can the world make of this? Should we be seeing it as a beginning of a turning point, if not a turning point in itself?
We can hope so. We can't see it yet. Because as you rightly said, the protest now focuses at two things. First of all, releasing the hostages. Secondly, bringing an end to the war mainly because of the hostages and because of the soldiers who get killed and injured. Unfortunately, the genocide is still not in first priority in this protest, and this is regrettable because what we both call genocide, it should be the main purpose of any protest now anywhere. But it is a first stage. Many Israelis are sick and tired of the war, even if it's not always for the right reasons. It's a good sign, because until now there was apathy.
And I think that's a very, very important point to make. One thing, that really stood out with regards to the messaging of these protests was the fact that they made it clear that military pressure doesn't and won't bring back the hostages. Do you believe that the Israeli government, and I think a lot of people have thrown this idea around, the Israeli government is essentially sacrificing some of its own people for political survival and to make sure that this genocide and this war on Gaza doesn't come to a stop?
Facts are very clear about it. The fact is that the hostages are not the first priority of the government, and continuing the war is a priority for this government. Will the reason be whatever they are? They might be really only about political survival, and they might even get worse than this, because they might be because of a very genocidal ideology, namely to commit an ethnic cleansing of Gaza. No matter what are the reasons, it's very clear that this government does not want to end the war. And I hope that the international pressure and the domestic pressure will be effective, but we can only hope, because until now, the government could easily ignore both the international pressure, which is limited, as long as the United States is supporting Israel blindly and automatically, and the domestic pressure, which is limited to a certain political camp, which is in any case not the political base of Netanyahu.
Mm, mm. I would like us to expand a bit on that. I think for our audience in other parts of the world and here in South Africa, just briefly, Benjamin Netanyahu's state of politics right now, how he's received in Israel, in political circles. Is he still lauded? Is he still celebrated? Is he still seen as the man to be at the helm of Israel at the moment?
In this aspect, Israel is totally divided. There are really two camps around Netanyahu. There are very clear two camps. He's the most hated and the most beloved or adored politician in Israel, no doubt. One camp is admiring whatever he does and will never criticize him and will always justify him. And the other camp will not accept anything he does and wouldn't believe him for anything. And those are the two camps now. And the question is, which one will be bigger and how will it be reflected in the coming elections, which are supposed to be in over 1 year?
Mm, mm, mm. No, most definitely. I want to touch on this other camp that you mentioned, one that is very, very critical of Benjamin Netanyahu, the rhetoric that he's clinging on to power with messianic delusions of some sort. Do you believe he's deliberately prolonging this war for political survival rather than security? And also, could it also be a measure to make sure that he comes back after the elections that you mentioned, that are coming in almost a year's time?
It's very hard to get into the brain of anyone else, for sure not into Netanyahu's. And it's not necessarily one reason over the other. It can easily be both. I personally believe that Netanyahu does it for his survival, but he also believes in the so called ultimate victory, which in his eyes means an ethnic cleansing of Gaza.
We seem to have lost sound there. But I
Can
think,
you
yeah,
hear me?
we. Yes, yes, yes. I
Okay,
can hear you. I'm not sure if
sure.
you'd be able to just repeat the last part. I think we just lost you for a moment there.
I just say that it might be both motivations, the political survival and the belief that the so called ultimate victory is by committing an ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip and make it Jewish.
Mm, no, most definitely. I think we're going to leave on that note, Gideon. Thank you so much for unpacking that part for us, and
Sure.
hope we chat again in the not so distant future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
There you go. That was journalist and columnist from Israeli news outlet Haaretz, Gideon Levy, giving us a bit of background on those protests that have rocked Tel Aviv in the last few days. The people of Israel, well, a major part or sect of Israeli society, calling for the end of this genocide, asking and pleading with the government to do a bit more when it comes to the returning of their hostages, and they're citing the fact that a continued war, a continued militaristic approach to the people of Gaza, to this war on genocide, ultimately won't bring any kind of peace. And I think only time will tell to see if internal pressure, maybe internal pressure, because external pressure, especially from the countries that one may say matter in the global discourse, hasn't really been effective, hasn't really worked as much as we'd wanted to. As long as the America is there as the primary funder of this genocide, then Israel thinks it's okay. but maybe internally within Israel in itself, although for them is a polarizing issue, as you heard there from Gideon, that there are other parts of Israel that still see Benjamin Netanyahu as a demigod. They still laud it. He's still very much celebrated. But there's other part of Israeli society that sees him as a failure, someone that has failed to bring peace in Israel and its neighbors, someone that has failed to return the hostages home, and they're calling for his head. They say he must step down. So I think, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out, especially with the elections that are coming up in Israel in about a year's time, about just how Israelis feel. I think it'll be very, very reflective. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.